Good morning, dear students. Welcome back in the next session and a new year of COVID-19 season. I hope that all are safe and sound. We'll begin with our lesson of science. Lesson number 1, Living World and Classification of Microbes. Before we start with that, let's begin with the previous knowledge. What is the hierarchy for classification of living organism? Here, hierarchy implies the order of division. From higher order, we are moving to the lower order. So, what is that order? The first highest order is kingdom, then phylum, later on with the classes, then order, family, genus, and species. These things I hope so that you have already studied in the previous year. The next question, who invented binomial system of nomenclature? He is none other than Carl Linnaeus. Then which level of hierarchy are considered while writing the name in the binomial nomenclature? A question implies that while writing what norms, what rules and regulations should be followed and how it is being named. So here two types of names are given at the last stage of the order, the last hierarchy, that is genus and species. So the two names, first one we call it as generic name. This is based on the genus. It is written in the capital letter. Then same name is written in the small letter, but then it signifies specific name, and that is nothing but species, which is written in small letter. This was about the previous knowledge, which I expect that you have already done it. Now here, biodiversity and need of classification. Here, simple meaning of biodiversity. Bio means life and diversity means variation. Variation in the life. It can be either plants or animals. And the need of classification. Why there is need to study about the classification of biodiversity or organism. Simple reason, excess of species are there and it is very difficult for us to study them all together, and therefore it is necessary that the living organisms has to be classified. Living organisms have adapted according to geographical conditions, food ingestion, defense of which created difference in the organism. We have already studied that how birds, how animals, they have adapted themselves according to the geographical condition. You might be knowing the example of, you can say, about the bear in the polar region. You might also be aware about the deer, how they have adapted themselves. Their horns are there. Purpose of that, I am talking about those deer which is staying in the polar regions. So they have adapted themselves according to the geographical conditions. Then you might be knowing about the animals in the desert region like camel and horse, how they have adapted in the desert region. Same way the animals living into the water, how they have adapted. So according to a geographical condition, these organisms have adapted themselves. That is on the basis of geographical condition. Similarly, on the basis of food ingestion, how the food is being taken inside, either it is directly engulfed through the cell like in unicellular, or it is taken up directly through the mouth, that is human being, or many other ways are there. So different factors plays an important role in the variation. Then ways of defending ourselves and attacking, defense from the enemy and attack for the food and protection. So this has created difference in the organism of the same species. As per 2011 census, 87 million species were found in the earth, including sea and on land. To study about them is very difficult, so species are divided into groups and subgroups on the basis of similarities and differences. The process of dividing living organisms into groups and subgroups is called as biological classification, which we are going to study it in short. Robert Whittaker in 1969 divided living organisms into 5 groups on the basis of certain criteria. The first criteria, complexity of cell structure, that is prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now, what are prokaryotes and eukaryotes? These are different type of organisms which are generally different or distinguished on the basis of nucleus and not nucleus. Means, in one case the nucleus is clearly distinguished, in other case it is not distinguished. So, depending upon the nucleus, and they have been classified as eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Further, the complexity of organism, that is unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular deals with single cell, multicellular deals with many cells. There are many organisms which are having only one cell, and the one cell perform all the functions of the body. Therefore, it is very easy to study about the function of this organism. Whereas in case of multicellular, many cells are there, their functions are different, and the complexity arises. Then mode of nutrition. Here 3 different zones of animal organisms are there: plants, fungi, and animal, and their mode of nutrition is also different. For plants are green in color, so they are having chloroplasts, and therefore they can prepare the food of their own, and therefore it is called as autotroph. Since they can prepare the food of their own, this process of preparing the food of their own is called as photosynthesis. Photo means light. In the presence of sunlight, they are preparing the food, and hence the name is given as photosynthesis. Further, fungi, they are also called as saprotrophs because they depend on the dead and the decaying substances or dead bodies of the animals, and therefore the name is given as saprotrophs. And the animals, they are called as heterotroph because they cannot prepare the food of their own. They are wholly and solely dependent on the other organisms for their food, and therefore they are called as heterotroph. Then lifestyle. Plants are called as producers. Why? Because they are acting as a food for the other organism, therefore they are called as producer. Then animals are called as consumers because they are dependent on the producers for their food. They are called as consumers. And the next one is fungi, decomposers, that is they are dependent on the dead bodies of the organisms, therefore they are called as decomposers. Phylogenetic relationship. Now, what is phylogenetic relationship? It is somewhat like a tree diagram, that is they are converting from one form to another form, not directly but step by step. So if you prepare a tree diagram of that, it is somewhat similar to tree diagram, and therefore here they have given example here how they are being converted from one form to another, that is prokaryotes to eukaryotes. Prokaryotes, organisms with nucleus not defined, to convert it to that organism where it is defined, or it is nucleus is being clearly distincted or identified. Then unicellular to multicellular, from single cell to many cells. Now, classification in the form of the table. Living organisms, they are first divided into 2: prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes, they are unicellular, and the example is Monera. Eukaryotes, they may be unicellular as well as multicellular. In unicellular, the kingdom name is Protista, and in multicellular, again it is divided into 3 kingdoms. Now that is 3 kingdoms are fungi, plantae, and animalia. In this lesson, we are going to study about only 3 kingdoms, and those 3 kingdoms is Monera, Protista, and fungi. Plantae and animalia will be studied in the next year. Now you can see for the example of fungi or distinctive factors of the fungi is Cell wall is present here, but they can't perform photosynthesis, means lack of green color. Then kingdom plantae, cell wall is present, they can perform photosynthesis. Here in Animalia, there is no cell wall. Further, characteristics of these three kingdoms. Characteristics of kingdom Monera. Generally, it is found in buttermilk or curd. Example, bacteria and blue-green algae. Now, buttermilk or curd, if you take a drop of it or place it under the microscope and cover it with the cover slip, you will find that rod-like structures, spring-like structures are there. Okay, the diagram is mentioned in here or given there in your textbook. So all organisms are unicellular. They may be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Autotrophic means prepare the food of their own. They are having green color pigment called as chloroplast. Heterotroph what? Those organisms which depend on other organisms for the food, means they lack chlorophyll, means they cannot prepare the food of their own. Then these are prokaryotic cells without distinct nucleus or cell organelles. The characteristics of kingdom Protista, generally found in pond water. Pond water, if you take a drop of it and cover it with the cover slip, you can find out these organisms. They are motile microbes. Motile means moving microbes, move from one place to another. That is why the word is used, motile. And irregular, since it is bacteria, does not have any specific shape, and therefore it is called as irregular shape of bacteria. These are single cell organisms with well-defined nucleus and nuclear membrane. Nucleus is there and outer covering of the nucleus is there, that is called as nuclear membrane. They have pseudopodia. Pseudo means false, podia means legs, false legs. They don't have actually legs, but they move with the outer covering. We call it as pseudopodia, false movement, and therefore the name is given pseudopodia. That is generally the amoeba. Or hair-like cilia, hair-like structure is there, which is with the help of which it can move. Or whip-like flagella, long thread-like structure is there at the mouth, that is called whip. For example, autotroph volvox, since it is having chloroplast, it can prepare the food of their own and hence it is called as autotroph. Then heterotroph amoeba depend on other organisms for the food and therefore it is called as heterotroph. Characteristics of kingdom fungi, generally found on the moist bread which is kept for 2 or 3 days on a container covered with the lid. You will observe that cotton tuft-like structure is formed. When that cotton tuft-like structure is placed under the microscope, you can see the diagram as mentioned in your textbook. The characteristics of these organisms, they are non-green, eukaryotic, heterotrophic. Eukaryotic, definitely nucleus is there. Then next, heterotrophic, depend on other organisms for the food, so it may be harmful to us or useful. Most of them are saprotrophs, depend on the dead bodies of the organisms for the food. Then cell wall made up of tough and complex sugar called as chitin. So that's all for today. Remaining part we'll do it next time. Have a great day. Take care of yourself.